Hi there. Let's take a quiet look at something that's, well, kinda at the heart of how the modern web works. It's called a PHP variable. And I promise we're going to break it down in a way that feels really simple and clear. You know that feeling when you log into a website and it greets you by name? Like, hey Sarah, or welcome back David. Ever just pause for a second and wonder, how does it do that? How does it know who I am? Well, that little personal touch, that's really what makes a website feel alive, isn't it? It's the difference between a static page, which is kind of like a printed flyer that's the same for everyone, and a dynamic one that actually talks to you. And one of the key tools that makes this magic happen is something called PHP. It's this language that works behind the scenes, on the server, to create that custom experience just for you. And honestly, the core idea that makes it all possible is incredibly simple. And that idea is called a variable. That's all it is, really. Just think of it as a little container. A small box designed to hold one piece of information for a little while. Okay, to make this super clear, let's use a little analogy. Imagine you've got a bunch of empty matchboxes. That's it. Just simple, everyday matchboxes. Each one can hold something inside, and you can write a label on it so you know what's in there. So, when you see a piece of code that looks like this, all it's really saying is this. Grab an empty matchbox, and with a pen, write username on the label. Then you take a tiny piece of paper, write Fred Smith on it, fold it up, and stick it inside the box. That's literally it. You've just stored a piece of information.
So, what else can we put in these little boxes? It turns out they're pretty flexible. It's not just for names.
For one, you can store text. In the coding world, we call this a string. It's exactly like that slip of paper we just talked about. Anytime you see text wrapped in quotation marks, you can be sure that's a string. You can also store numbers. So with our matchbox idea, this would be like putting a specific number of tiny beads inside. Let's say you put one single bead in a box and label it my counter. See? It's not text anymore, it's a quantity. But what if you need to keep track of a whole list of things? Well, you can do that too with something called an array. Just picture it. You take a few of your matchboxes, glue them together side by side, and now you have a little tray where each box can hold one item from your list. So let's just recap that real quick. A string, that's our text on a slip of paper. A number, that's the count of beads in a box. And an array, that's our tray of connected boxes. It's a really simple way to picture the different kinds of information you'll be storing. Okay, now for probably the single most important rule you need to remember about these matchboxes in the world of PHP. Every single label has to start with a $sign. That's the signal. When PHP sees that $sign, it knows, aha, this is a variable, this is one of our boxes. And after that $sign, there are just a few simple little rules for what you can name your box. First, the name itself has to start with a letter or an underscore. After that, you can use letters, numbers, or underscores, and that's it. And super important, no spaces are allowed. If you want a space, just use an underscore instead. And finally, you gotta remember that these labels are case sensitive. So a box named name with a little n is completely different from a box named name with a big N. All right, lean in for this one, because this is something that gets everyone when they're starting out. The difference between one equal sign and two. A single equal sign means you're putting something in the box. It's an action. We are assigning a value. But a double equal sign, that's a question. That's you peeking inside the box and asking, hey, is what's in here equal to this other thing? One is an action, the other is a question. Totally different things. And this brings us right back to where we started. Remember the website greeting you by name? Well, once Fred Smith is tucked away inside our $username matchbox, the website's code just says something simple like echo $username. That's basically telling the server, hey, go find the box labeled username, open it up and show everyone what you find inside. And boom, Fred Smith pops up on the screen. You know, one of the really nice things about PHP is that you don't have to stress too much about all of this. As this great quote from our source material puts it, you can just assign values that make sense, and PHP is pretty smart about figuring it out. So you can put your beads in the box and then later ask PHP to treat it like text, and most of the time, it just works. It's built to be pretty forgiving, which is great when you're just learning. So the next time you log on somewhere and it says hello, just remember the humble little matchbox. Every amazing, complex, personalized thing you see on the web, from your shopping cart to your social media feed, it all starts with this one simple idea. Just storing one little piece of information in a simple container ready to be used. And now, it's a secret you know.